Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. I'm back with my guy Quakes. How you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's World Cup season, so there's football on every day. Cannot complain.
No, bro. There's not only is there football on every day, there's football on every day, all day. You know, we can't complain. But what's new with you, my guy?
Not much. Just covering the World Cup for different places. So it's been fun. Been very busy, but it's been good. Obviously, watching Ghana win earlier. Again, I've got who Ghana played.
South Korea. Come on, flexing us. Who are you working with now?
Just doing standard work for TalkSport and doing a bit for ESPN as well. So it's good stuff. Enjoying just getting to watch football and getting paid for it. It's nice.
Yeah, can't be bad, mate. Can't be bad. So obviously we've got the big game against Wales coming up. What's Southgate going to do? Is he going to go all guns blazing, or is he going to rest a lot of his starters?
It's difficult because England's performance against USA left a lot to be desired. And we all thought it was coming home after we beat Iran 6-2. I think the truth probably lies somewhere in between those two results. And Southgate's proved that he's a pragmatic manager throughout tournaments. There's been group games in the Euros against Scotland where it was a 0-0 draw, or the group game against Belgium in the World Cup 2018 where we fielded a weakened side and we lost it. The group stages have never been perfect under Gareth Southgate, but he manages to figure out a way to get us on the right side of the draw to give us the best chance to get into the final.
Yeah.
And I feel like his team's going to reflect that. He's going to make sure that he rotates his side, keeps his players fresh. Also would want to probably check out a new system, check out some players as well that he might not be too sure on. So I think we're going to see some rotation, but he's going to feel the side good enough to win against Wales.
For sure. Now, let's talk a little bit about the USA game before we do go on to Wales. So what were your thoughts on that? I don't think there was really a good performance across the pitch other than Harry Maguire at centre-back for me. Yeah. I think Harry Maguire has made himself look invaluable to that England side. I said it before the start of the tournament, by the way. I said it. Harry Maguire needs to start for us, and I think I've been proven right in that decision.
Yeah, no, he looked really assured. Especially, he looked better in the second game than he did in the first game. Obviously, we kept the clean sheet against USA. Going forward, our players didn't look great, but yeah, Harry Maguire looked good. I'd like to see a few more progressive passes from our centre backs. I felt like a lot of the possession that we maintained was the centre backs in terms of John Stones and Harry Maguire knocking it to each other. But I think England, nobody really apart from Harry Maguire left that pitch with any credit. And it's drawn out so many questions about why didn't Southgate bring on this player or why didn't he start this player. And he's got to answer those questions in press conferences and in interviews, and he's answered it quite assured. He picks the teams that he believes are going to go out there and win, and that's his prerogative as England manager. Can't really argue against it when he's got England to a World Cup semi-final and a Euros final. But ultimately, there's going to be fans of certain players that aren't going to be happy with his team selection.
Do you know what? For me, like the fans, every England fan, I think rightfully so, says how has Foden not made it into that game? I think for me personally, I would have loved to see him feel Foden, but I think, the only place I would really put him on for right in that team, in that starting lineup would have been Mason Mount, really. And I don't know how much more effective he would have been just as a result of the way we kind of set up in that game.
Yeah.
I haven't really spoken too much about the USA, especially like giving my opinion on like the internet or whatever, but I think the way we set up was very uninspiring. I think we kind of set up with this half press. We had our front three kind of half pressing the USA back line. And we're making players like Robinson and Ream look world class, because as soon as they breached that our front three, you got the rest of our team essentially sitting on the halfway line. So you got 30 yards worth of space just to pick your pass essentially.
Yeah, I think there was like an inability or a lack of will or desire to get in behind and really trouble the USA. I think we might have been a little bit surprised with the fitness of the USA. They were running until the final whistle, but ultimately, England should be beating the USA in the World Cup.
Oh, most definitely.
But you hear the interviews afterwards, and you hear Southgate, and you hear Maguire, and you hear Harry Kane, and they all have the same tagline: "It's we've put ourselves in a good position." So I think England went out there to not lose because they know that a draw effectively got them through the group. So frustrating for England fans. It's a Friday night, it's a 7 p.m. kickoff. People are excited, people are ready to go mental, and England served up a drab 0-0 draw. That's why I think a lot of people are very angry. I think if it's a game that's on the Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
I'm not having that.
People are not as angry, but
Not as drunk.
Not as drunk. And everybody was watching that game. Like literally everybody watched that game. But if it's a game that's during the day when people are working, I think there's less scrutiny. I think there's less expectation. So yeah, England have got to come again against Wales, and if they fail to win that game, then there'll be serious questions and inquisitions.
Yeah, I agree. Just to add on to that, finally, I think it was quite clear when that Southgate was playing for a point when his first sub was Jordan Henderson coming on for Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham wasn't in the game, and I think most England fans were sat there scratching their heads when Henderson did come on. But what I would say is Henderson then became one of our most important players in the second half with his forward runs. The runs that no one else was making. I think it was just a little bit too late in the game. Obviously, USA were sat deep trying to conserve a point, and England by that point hadn't done enough to kind of win a game. So. Or lose the game. I don't think either side really did anything to win the game. It was just fairly uninspiring.
Yeah, it was pretty. And also, I think the issue is, and I've always defended Gareth Southgate because of his record as England manager.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the Germany versus Spain game, which is probably the highest level game of this World Cup so far, both managers in Hansi Flick and Luis Enrique were proactive. Luis Enrique bringing on Alvaro Morata less than 10 minutes into the second half, he comes on, he scores a goal. And then you look at Hansi Flick, he brings on Füllkrug, who is a wild card, who scored goals for Werder Bremen this season, but it's not necessarily a household name. He comes off the bench, scores a goal. They're proactive, whereas Gareth Southgate seems to be content in letting the game play out and letting the team out there kind of try and work it out and figure it out. And I think at the time of recording, I know Vincent Aboubakar come off the bench to score goals for Cameroon, but in the World Cup of 2018, there was 15 different goal scorers that came off the bench to score goals in this World Cup, and that was the whole of the World Cup. In this World Cup already, there's been 17. There could even be more because of the goals scored today.
So it's only been about 17 goals as well.
So the substitutes are such an imperative and crucial part of what teams do. And England got such a deep bench that it was a shame that we didn't see Phil Foden come off the bench because he definitely could have changed the game.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Yeah. Now, talking of Wales. I think Wales are obviously going into this game. Not only are they going to want to beat us in normal circumstances, they're playing for their lives. Their big players haven't performed so far. I know Gareth Bale scored the penalty, but other than that, he's been rather anonymous across both games. And you could say the same for Aaron Ramsey. You could almost say it's like a changing of the guard in terms of the quality that Wales have got out there. In the game against Iran, they were awful. They were genuinely awful. So as an England fan, I do go into this game very confident, but it just depends on how Southgate kind of approaches the game, because if he gets to draw, England ultimately are through to the next stages. But we have to be winning this game. We have to be.
Yeah, 100%, especially because you look at USA and they've drawn. England finished top of the group because of the goal difference, but if USA go and stick as many goals as we did past Iran in the final game and we don't win this game or we draw this game, then it could be quite sticky in terms of finishing top of the group. So we do have to go and win this game. But if you look at the Wales team, they've been very, very uninspiring. Got a hard-fought draw against the USA coming from behind, which people thought was a good result. But in the game against Iran could have scored more. It was 2-0 with 2 late goals from Iran, but they could have had 3 or 4.
Poor decision-making from the keeper as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's unacceptable. And you heard Rob Page talk about Hennessy coming out to make that decision. It handicaps Wales, who already don't look great. Danny Ward's going to start in goal for them against England. And he's not necessarily looked the most assured in a lot of Leicester games this season, despite the fact that his form did pick up towards the back end of the Premier League season before it went on the break. I just think with Wales, they're handicapped with the fact that Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey have to start, just because they are the talisman of their team. And it's probably to the detriment of the team.
Yeah, for sure.
Like their moments players, Gareth Bale's the moments player. He can maybe give you a 30-yard strike from outside the box or a free kick or a penalty. But you look at his overall contributions to the game, it's just not there anymore. He looks in decline. Aaron Ramsey hasn't been Aaron Ramsey for the last 3 or 4 years. But Rob Page is probably going to have to stick with them because they are players that have got a lot of prestige within the dressing room. They're leaders.
I agree.
So they're in a bit of a sticky one.
And also for the both of them, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't at this moment in time. Because if he does drop either player and then they go out to the World Cup, there will be questions asked as to why they didn't play in that game. So it's an incredibly tough decision to be put in for the manager, but from an English perspective, I just hope that neither of them perform and that we get through to the knockout stages. What do you think the score's going to be, mate?
I've given so many different score predictions, so it's going to be so inconsistent. In one place I've said this, one place I've said that. I'm going to say 3-1. I've probably said 3-0 somewhere else. I've probably said 2-1. But I'm going to go 3-1 exclusive for the We Talk Football podcast. Who's going to score? I'd love Harry Kane to get a goal. I'm not too sure if he starts. But he's probably the player that we need to get a goal the most to get him up and running for the tournament. But yeah, 3-1 England.
2-0 England for me, mate. I can't see us conceding a goal against that Wales side. I really can't. And I may look like a fool this time tomorrow, but I don't think Wales have got enough firepower to trouble England right now. I think Harry Maguire, he doesn't believe in taking Christmas off, mate. He's got an England shirt on. You know what that means. He's doing his best to keep clean sheets, unless it's against Iran. So yeah, for me, it has to be an England win. And if it isn't, then it's definitely Southgate out. With this crop of talent.
If England don't make it through the groups, then Southgate out.
Oh
yeah,
mate. There's no question.
What if England lose and make it through the group? It's still Southgate out.
It depends on how this tournament goes. I think anything but a quarter or semi-final right now would, in my opinion, be deemed a massive failure.
Yeah.
You look at the strength of our group. Like, with all due respect to USA, Wales, and Iran, England are cut from a different cloth when it comes to quality, in my opinion. As much as our performances against USA didn't suggest that, our performances against Iran was good. Do you know what I mean? So you look at the other teams in the World Cup, there are some teams that look great, like Spain, for example, that no one would have expected, and France obviously look good because they're France, but there's other teams out there that aren't playing well. Belgium, Germany. The World Cup, in my opinion, is wide open for someone out there who might not be a favourite to go and challenge. Netherlands don't look great either, and we could potentially have them in the knockout stages. So, yeah. I mean, anything but a semi or a quarter final is an absolute failure for England, in my opinion. And I know since for the last 50 years, Gareth Southgate is probably he's the most successful English manager since Sir Ralph Ramsey, since we last won it. But I mean, we can't live in the past. We have to live in the current, the present. And if we do fail in this tournament, then it has to be, for sure.
I agree. I think it should be his last tournament anyway. In terms of a cycle of an England manager, I think 3 major tournaments is enough. Took the job unexpectedly after Allardyce lost it due to controversial reasons. He came in 2018, got us to a World Cup semi-final. 2020 Euros, he got us to the final. And regardless of what he does, he should go, in my opinion, because say he doesn't win it, people are going to be calling for his head. People call for his head when he got to Euros final, didn't win it.
Yeah.
And if he does win it, perfect way to go out. It doesn't get better than winning the World Cup. So there's not a future beyond this tournament that I think Gareth Southgate should still be England manager.
No,
that doesn't condemn what he's done. I just think it's time for a change.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Like, I agree with you. And people will say out there, who takes over the team? Like, I don't necessarily have that answer for you now.
Pochettino's vying for it.
Really though, I don't know if fair enough. This could end up biting me in the backside again. But I think Pochettino hasn't exactly covered himself in glory from managing PSG, and he showed that he couldn't necessarily manage the big stars. In my opinion, he had some great times at Tottenham, got into a Champions League final, ultimately didn't win anything, unfortunately. But, I'm not saying he's not a quality manager, but I don't know if he'd be top of my list, so to speak. But I don't know who would,
There's not that many people out there. With someone like Pochettino, I think he plays progressive football. And there are players that, granted, they have faults with their game, but I think should be paying for England. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold, at his age, what he's won, he should be paying for England. There should be a manager who can figure out a way to put him in an England team. This guy is unbelievable in terms of going forward. And defensively, I think there could be fixes in terms of making sure you can get him in a team where you're not getting too exposed on the back end. Phil Foden should be starting for England.
Yeah, I agree.
These players should be starting for England. I don't disagree with Gareth Southgate's decision, but there should be a point where you can put these players in the England starting lineup, and I think a manager like Pochettino could be the man to do that.
I think we all have the benefit of hindsight as well. It's easy to sit here and say we do disagree with Gareth Southgate's decision, and quite frankly, not playing Alexander-Arnold in that game, I can understand that completely, because Kieran Trippier, as much as he's not as good as Trent going forward, some people would say that he's more resolved going forward. He's more disciplined in terms of, resolved at the back. He's more disciplined in kind of sitting in, and that's what that back line did. I feel like Luke Shaw and Kieran Trippier barely left our half all game. And I don't know if I've ever seen that from Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not saying he can't do it, of course, but I can understand his Gareth Southgate's choices behind that. But when it gets later in the game, and there's you need something special to unlock a team. You look at your mercurial players like your James Maddisons or your Phil Fodens, your players that can do something special, like your Jack Grealishes and your Trent Alexander-Arnold. Those players, like, he brought Jack Grealish on, but didn't really have enough time to put an impact on the game. So I'd second what you said there, mate. Like, I think we're at a point now where Gareth Southgate has been with the team long enough, and I would, if he was to leave it, if he was to essentially finish after this tournament, I think a lot of England fans would tip their hats to him and say, "Fantastic job, mate." But I think it's time for the next chapter in the kind of the England cycle.
Yeah,
I would agree. So obviously that's England. Let's talk about football in general, and if it's coming home. For me personally, I don't think England is going to come home. I think it's going to get lost somewhere just before the Channel and land in France. In my opinion, I think France look fantastic. You look at some of the players they've lost already. Look, with Karim Benzema, and they lost Hernandez with an ACL injury at the start of the tournament, and they still look incredible.
Yeah, I think their success will be predicated on how much Kylian Mbappe can do. And it seems like a bit of a tap-in answer, but he is putting his country on his back, and he scored a brace the other day, and it wasn't even the first goal, which was probably a better goal technically, that impressed me the most. It was the second goal, his willingness to get in the box, to put himself in a position, the ball kind of comes off his thigh and goes in, and he's really, really, really trying to take that mantle of best player in the world. And I think there'd be very few people that could disagree with him in terms of like current players. We know how great Messi and Ronaldo are, but in terms of players in their absolute prime, I think Kylian Mbappe is going for that crown.
Yeah.
We have, again, the benefit of watching him in the World Cup, where everything is hyper-sensitized, and that's not even a word. Everything is under a microscope, and people are watching and kind of judging it game by game. 3 months ago or 2 months ago, we were talking about Erling Haaland being better than Kylian Mbappe. So again, it's all like, you have to take it with a pinch of salt in the World Cup, but I think Kylian Mbappe and what he's doing for France is incredible. So they are definitely one of the favourites. I love the way Spain are playing. I know that they didn't get the win against Germany.
Yeah.
But you see that midfield.
They're taking the piss, man.
They're a joke. Like, it's crazy that they've actually got the successors to Xavi and Iniesta and Pedri and Gavi. And
they're actually taking the piss, yeah.
Busquets in the midfield, and their ability to play with the ball is incredible. Then they're playing like Laporte and Rodri as centre backs, and the ball retention is ridiculous. And they look, in terms of just actual play, not results, they've looked the best to me. But again, you take your pick. Brazil are 2 for 2 in terms of wins. So are France. Spain look really good. England are so. So it depends on how the draw shakes up and who gets who in the round of 16. But I think you're right. You probably have it right in terms of France being favourites, but in terms of actual play itself, I like Spain.
I think Spain have been the best team. I saw a really funny tweet, actually. Look at me. I'm Spain. I can create 2 of the best midfielders of all time and just have them respawn after they retire. Pathetic. Grow up. That really takes me back, Kwaku. Now, not only is that like the greatest tweet I've seen throughout this World Cup, it also takes me back to, like, PS3 days when you're playing like FIFA 13, you got Barcelona in your 10th season on career mode, and Xavi and Iniesta are retiring, and then you have to go out and sign their regens. Pedri and Gavi, it's the passing of the guard. These boys are different gravy, mate.
Yeah, no, they like, and Spain are so lucky to the fact that they've had such an incredible midfield, and I know it's taken a couple of years, but seamlessly replaced it. You've still got the old workhorse or warhorse in Busquets, who's anchoring that midfield. You've got Pedri and Gavi either side. That's just an absolute joke, and I'm very, very jealous.
Yeah, definitely, man. But yeah, that wraps up the World Cup chat, Quakes. Where can people find us?
So you can find us on socials. We're on Instagram at We Talk Football Podcast. We're on Twitter at WTF Podcast 90. We're on TikTok. Just search We Talk Football Podcast. Jamie's been going viral recently. We had a video, or Jamie interviewed Adam McCullough. That's on, I think, 1 million views on TikTok.
Call me Mr. 1 Milli.
Yeah, 1 milli. So make sure you check out TikTok. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find podcasts. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're back with more videos very, very soon.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.